After a week on this beautiful boat in the Galapagos, we had just one last dive ahead of us. So we headed off to Isabela. Besides being the largest island in the Galapagos, it's most well known for having the same shape as a seahorse. In episode 1, we explored the southern side and found wild tortoise and blue-footed boobies. But today we are headed to the uninhabited northern side, to a spot called Roca de Vicente. Only accessible by boat and 200 kilometers away from the closest inhabited area, this zone is famous for the life that thrives on the cold water upwellings the Humboldt Current carries here. The dramatic rock formations above the surface plunge underwater to a vertical wall that we would soon find out makes a dreamy dive site. Once Tiburon was anchored, we got to take a dinghy cruise along the shore.
What? Who's a clever boy? There's a sea lion up here that has a... What kind of snake? Is that a banded sea snake? Tiger snake in his mouth. And he just popped up and was like... and then went back down. Like he was playing with the sea snake and then he's gonna eat it. He's a clever boy. Holy shit.
On shore, we spotted our first flightless cormorants. These birds have lost their ability to fly because food is so abundant on the island that they simply don't need to. They're endemic to the Galapagos, and through evolution, their wings have shrunk to about 1/3 the size required for a bird of its proportions to fly.
What is it?
Baby penguin! We're like jamming the Zodiac up on the rocks. It's awesome.
And what else?
Iguanas right here, it's crabs, blue-footed boobies. The whole spectrum.
It's just
What do you see, Justin?
I see an amazing wall. It's like Jurassic Park. I expect a pterodactyl to fly out. And even then.
Permanent smile on your face.
Totally.
To think 2 weeks ago, this guy wasn't even a certified scuba diver.
You've seen so many things this week that people dive for like a decade to try and see.
I know.
I know. I feel like whenever we go on trips or whenever something amazing is happening, or in life in general, we're always telling ourselves to slow down. And I felt like we really tried this trip. But it went by so fast. Like we were here a week and it feels like we slept one time. So, which is a good sign because it was incredible. Like the amount of diving we did 18 dives total. And yeah, I've seen so many things that I'd never seen before that I wanted to see for so long. I had some serious technical difficulties throughout the week, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like we were able to be here and experience Galapagos and all the amazing people and things around. And that's the anchor dropping for the last time for us. So
one last anchorage meant one last dive, and one more time to get our minds blown by the waters of the Galapagos. If you're wondering what this massive fish is, it's a Mola Mola. It's the largest bony fish on planet Earth, and the biggest of them can weigh up to 5,000 pounds. When a mola first hatches, it's 1/10 of an inch long, but by the time it's fully grown, it gains more than 60 million times its weight.
You know they're big. You know that they're big when you know, see them in the books or anything like that, or see pictures or video of people next to them. But it's not until you're next to that fish that you realize how big it actually is, how big its eyes are. Oh my God, wow. I gotta do that dive like 100 more times for it to sink in. All those things going on, like so much action every single way. Ooh, did you guys see the Mola Mola on your dive?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
When it was like the closest, I could actually.
We're just casually crossing the equator also right now.
The eye of the Mola Mola looking at me. It was amazing.
So big.
Yep. Yeah.
This is the second time we've crossed the equator on this trip, and we're gonna cross it a third time, I think, too.
I'm gonna go around the other side of the island.
We actually crossed it on the way to the dive site. They time it perfectly, right?
Yeah.
They time it perfectly to have a nice celebration. So I asked Paulo how many times he's crossed the equator. He said 2 times a month for 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a special status.
That is. No, I don't know. Our time on the Tiburon Explorer had come to an end. We only had one more night to sleep aboard as we motored our way back to Baltra Island.
Diver, I would say if Galapagos isn't already on your list, add it. I know for me it was always kind of a place where I thought, oh, it's too hard to get to, or way too expensive, or just out of my league for whatever reason. And now that I've come here and I understand how it works, I don't think it's like that. I think that anyone can make it happen, and it's well worth whatever extra effort or extra cost it takes, because it's a very, very special place. There's a reason that it's famous around the world, and there's a reason that it helped establish where we came from.
You ever think you'd be crying after a week of spending your life with strangers?
Always.
Always. Yeah, Brady, I do it all the time.
I do. You know, surround yourself with good people. This is what happens.
Yeah, I get it. It was so nice meeting you in person and spending some good time with you.
Twice as good as you are on the show.
Well, thank you. Twice? That's a lot. Yeah. Yeah, thanks so much.
Bye, Brady.
Bye.
Pleasure meeting you.
See you later.
Bye, friends. Bye.
See you in September, whale shark season. I'll be right here. I'm not going anywhere.
I haven't had this feeling in a really long time. It's the same feeling you get when you sail to some place. You make incredible friends within like a week or 2 weeks timing, and then you say goodbye. Like we're about to go sail away from this island. And it's the same exact feeling. I haven't felt it in a really long time. It's good though. It's a good feeling to have because you know that you've actually made some really good bonds in such a short period of time. After making it back to Santa Cruz, we made the last minute call to head over to the capital island, San Cristobal. It's said that this island has more sea lions than people, which seemed pretty believable upon arrival. We made our way through town in search of someone I hadn't seen in over a decade. In 2010, a small sailboat named Bubbles sailed through these islands, captained by a man named Alex Rust. When he started the journey, he didn't know how to sail, but over the years, he became quite the legend. If you haven't heard of Alex Rust, this documentary about him on YouTube is a must-watch. And brings us back to our story of when he sailed to the Galapagos and picked up
Diego Eduardo Iglesias Maruri.
And where are you from?
I'm from the Galapagos Islands in the Pacific. I'm 21 years old. I didn't know anything about sailing or boats, but then I saw Bubbles, and that was the only boat with a big like plantain, like full of bananas, you know. And I'm like, wow, that's like real sailors, you know. And these guys might be like super good sailors. I don't know how true it was with that, but
Hey, you're a real big help too.
I had no idea where we were going, man. I thought we were going to Indonesia, but we were going to French Polynesia. So I told my mom, yeah, mom, I met these guys, they're super good sailors. And she was like, okay, where are you going? I think I'm going to Indonesia. It's only going to take a month, mom, you know?
We met Alex and Diego in Fatu Hiva of the Marquesas Islands in 2010. There weren't very many young cruisers at that time, so when we saw them dancing around the streets, we instantly hit it off and spent many months exploring the islands together. And now, being so close to Diego's home island, I had to go see my old friend. Diego! Is this where Diego lives?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Diego, your camera.
Despite not having seen Diego in almost a decade, we picked right back up where we left off. We both matured so much during those 10 years apart.
DJ Galapagos.
And over the next few days, he showed us around his paradise. Turns out, he too had gotten a sailboat of his own.
So 38 feet of pure fiberglass, okay? Like I told you earlier, it's a little bit old, you know, built in 79. I really haven't tracked all the way exactly where it was built, but it's a Morgan 38.2 feet. But it's super simple, you know, it's easy to sail, so the idea as well is also to teach a lot of people how to sail in this boat. It's really, you know, easy to manage, easy on your walk, you know. So we have had some kids of the community sailing around a few times, and for them it's mind-blowing, you know, just to take them out for a little sail out to the rock and back. So that's another side project that we have with Pepe.
Nice.
After spending almost a month in the Galapagos, beautiful moments like this became the norm. Never have I seen such trusting wildlife or had such up-close encounters with creatures of the sea. It made me think how lucky Diego was to have grown up here in such an amazing place. But over dinner one night, he shared with us some of the hardest moments he's experienced growing up here as well.
Ooh, yeah. 2017, there was a Chinese boat that was just crossing the marine reserve, and the Navy and the National Park were able to identify this vessel that was passing through. Randomly, you know, they were checking, of course no permits, so they went in the north part of San Cristobal and stopped them, and then they realized, of course, that it was a Chinese boat. So they with no permit, so they brought it close to town. And what this boat was, it's a fridge boat, you know. Fridge boat, it was probably like, I'm not sure about the length, but I remember the fridge boxes that they had 6. 10 meters by 5 meters by 15 meter long, okay, and 6 of those. What happened with these boats, they are just buying the fish out there, you know, they're just sitting there, and then the smaller fishing boats, they come and sell the fish to these fridge boats. And this boat had 1.5 of this fridge full of pure sharks, only sharks, okay. And how did I get involved with this? It's when my friend, he asked me if I was available to help him in the analysis of the species that were inside of the boat. And we found 8 different species: hammerheads, silkies, alopia. So I've never seen so many hammerheads in my life before. I saw them without fins, all tucked together, and barely a few fish, you know. So it was a shark concentrated fish. It was horrible. So what happened is that we did a full day of just research. That's all they gave us. Well, the smell, it's unexplainable. It's a smell that I've never smelled before, and I'm sure that when I smell it again, because I will at one point in my life, I will recognize it straight away, because it's just pure cartilage and just frozen. Everything is frozen, right? And I was almost crying, you know, but I had to hold my tears, because the rest of the people that were in shock as well, that were part of this countdown of individuals and species, they were breaking down super easy. You see these big guys loving nature, just like almost sitting down, just looking at this pile of sharks, not doing much. And my job, I felt like at that time, was to inject energy to these people so we can keep on working, because people were so devastated just by looking at how many sharks there were, you know, piled up perfectly, lined up, you know, because one was full and the one above had like 25% of the compartment full of sharks. So we were able to see the row, you know, the wall of sharks. And I just took all the energy that I could to motivate them to keep on working so we can make it happen. Otherwise, the numbers were not going to be right. And then with no numbers, we couldn't put a right penalty to the captain and the crew and the company. So after the government said, okay, this boat is going to get confiscated, it's going to get sent to mainland Ecuador, and from there, this boat is going to be set for the help of the Galapagos. So that it was, good, you know, we got a boat, now we have a boat for Galapagos so they can help with the supplies. But it was impossible to do that because all of the systems were Chinese, and it was impossible for an Ecuadorian captain to, you know, be able to work the ship. Plus, then you have the other way around of, you know, the other side, that the Chinese, they came straight to the government behind everybody, and this boat is, I think it's operating back, it's back in business. So we end up with nothing, you know, just the idea of just having these boats out there, hundreds of them, it's just devastating. The international fisheries are so strong that it's impossible. So many people, you know, live through this, that we're not gonna say, just cut it down, no more fishing. It's impossible. Just, you know, be aware of this protected area and stay out. And it's crazy, really. I'm telling you, there's hundreds of this out there. They're all moving together. You know, you can go on the internet and see them, how the fleet is traveling all together, because it's a floating city. So a fishing fleet, when they are huge, like the ones that I'm mentioning, you have the cargo boats. You know, you have these big boats like the ones that the government trapped, just floating there. waiting for the fishing boats, because this boat has no fishing arts. But the main job of these boats are just to buy fish out there in the ocean. So then you have these big boats for storage, so for fridge. Then you have the medium-sized boats which are doing the fishing. You know, they're doing nets, they're doing long lines, which they put like hundreds of thousands of hooks, you know, in line. You know, I think they go for 5 nautical miles, long lines, just loaded with hooks. So much bycatch, so much bycatch. Imagine from rays, turtles, sharks, because they're going for fish. You know, that's what they want. You know, they're going for tuna, they're going for, you know, pelagic fish. But there's so much bycatch, so they can actually start, you know, when they're really in this long line in, they can start dividing, okay, fish and bycatch. And there are fish boats that are just for the bycatch. You know, so then you have these big boats, these fishing boats, and the smaller boats that help the medium-sized fishing boats, you know, to organize the long lines, and so then they travel together. And then you have the boats that are providing the fuel as well. So they can stay there for months, you know. 6 months just out there is nothing, you know, so that's when we start having really impact, when they get really close to shore. But I know that there are factory boats, the ones that are already, instead of, you know, processing, canning all the fish, dolphin, shark, whatever they put in there, instead of taking it to land, they just have a factory boat. So that way, when they get to port, they just sell the product. So
There's no way of telling what's in it if they're doing
No.
it all on the boat.
yeah, do not eat canned fish. It's not necessarily fish. Yeah, don't do it.
So what would you say to someone that would say like, oh, there's nothing we can do, the ocean's just too big or it's too far gone? Like, how would you recommend that they keep hope?
Keep hope. I think the best way of keeping hope is just don't forget what's really happening, because we turn usually to see a problem and then, wow, how we're gonna manage this problem is out of my reach, so then you forget about it, and then the problem keeps there and you feel good because you kind of like mentally block it. I think that's when we're doing wrong. We don't have to forget those things, and eventually you're gonna link with someone, with some situation where you're gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna do this because it's gonna support this action that is not right. So just keep the problems in mind and speak. I think speaking and talking about it is the most, it's the easiest way of, you know, helping. Talk with your family, with your friends, and eventually this creates conscious, and being conscious about these problems, I think, is the best way of helping if you don't have all the time in the world to, you know, fix what, you know, previous generations have made wrong. So yeah, I think that's the best. Communication and keep talking about these little things that we keep forgetting. Don't forget them, they're there. The problem is still there, and there are solutions, and there are ways of, you know, small movements around the world is better than one big movement in a specific place. So that's what I have to say, I think.
Good answer.